Alright, everyone. Welcome to Chapter 4 of Isaiah from Mormons. This is a pretty short one. Really, the chapter is only 6 verses or so. So, like I said, I said at the beginning it was going to be maybe 15-20 minutes. Probably ends up being about 45 minutes per chapter. It's Isaiah. It's kind of hard sometimes. This one may be around 15 minutes, maybe even less. So, we'll just dive right into it here. Now we have to remember here, like I said, chapter divisions, a little bit arbitrary. So at the end of chapter 3, they're talking about the daughters of Zion are going to lament and mourn, and they're going to be desolate and sit on the ground, and then jumps to this, which is in the same vein. Okay, so after everything's been ruined and everything is terrible, in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, "We will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. And that day shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious, the fruit of the earth excellent and comely to them that are escaped of Israel. And it shall come to pass, they that are left in Zion and remain in Jerusalem shall be called holy, every one that is written among the living in Jerusalem." So things are going to be so bad that 7 women are going to go to one man, because all the men have died in the war, presumably, right? And they'll say, "Listen, you don't have to feed us. You don't have to clothe us. We just want to be married to you," because at the time it was considered very shameful to not be married and to not have the possibility to have any kids. Thus, let us just take your name, right? Called by thy name. Let us just take your name, as in take your last name via marriage. And let us not be ashamed. You don't have to feed us. You don't have to clothe us. We just, there are so few men. We just want to not experience the shame of this. So this, I don't know why. I would have just pegged this onto the end of chapter 3. Like I said, divisions are a little arbitrary. We're just going to deal with them. But here in verse 2, you see the huge contrast. So after God has just mopped the floor with these guys, he says, now, after everybody's wiped out, or a lot of people are, at least the wicked are, the rest are going to be great. In that day shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious, the fruit of the earth excellent and comely to them that are escaped of Israel. This definitely, I think, harkens back to a lot of Garden of Eden imagery. The branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious. That word branch definitely has some Garden of Eden connotations to it in the Hebrew. Beautiful and glorious, that phrase harkens back to some stuff with the creation of the tabernacle. The garments that the priests wear, the priestly vestments, are supposed to be for glory and for beauty, right? So this definitely harkens back to sort of the good old days, most especially the Garden of Eden. The fruit of the earth excellent and comely to them that are escaped of Israel. So yes, the rulers of the people that have been doing terrible things, yeah, they're going to get wiped out. But the rest of the people, implication, the poor, kind of interesting. The poor, those that are left, the earth is going to produce abundantly for them, almost like they were back in the Garden of Eden. And it shall come to pass that they that are left in Zion and remain in Jerusalem shall be called holy. Once again, parallelism, you'll notice that. Left in Zion and remain in Jerusalem. Zion was sort of the heavily fortified part of Jerusalem. So sort of this is a parallelism, right? Those that are left in Zion remain in Jerusalem. Shall be called holy, everyone that is written among the living in Jerusalem. And once again, written among the living, they would be familiar with the idea of having this book that God has, where everybody's name is recorded. And in fact, Moses even alludes to this book. He talks to God and says, "Yeah, I know that you've got this sort of book of life thing, and if it's any help to you, and you can erase my name from the book on behalf of the children of Israel to sort of make up for their sins." And God says, "Well, actually, I'm the only one that can make up for other people's sins. You can't, but thanks for the gesture." Right? But clearly, there's this sort of idea of this book written among the living in Jerusalem. Obviously, that's everyone is still alive in Jerusalem. But I think it's much more than that. I think it's this idea that they're also sort of written in the book of life. Those that are left, the righteous, that have remained, those that are left in Zion and remain in Jerusalem shall be called holy. This, once again, we're going back to Garden of Eden / tabernacle imagery. Glorious and beautiful, right? Just like the priestly vestments. Aaron had a part of his priestly vestments, a little metal plate on his head that said holiness to the Lord, as though he himself were consecrated to the Lord. And here, no, everybody that's left now, not just Aaron, everybody that's left is going to be called holy. To be perfectly honest, it's hard to convey to a modern audience how infuriating Isaiah would have been to the people that he was talking to. The people in his day really would have seen him kind of as a heretic. At least a lot of people would have. And that's often the fate of prophets, but Isaiah definitely falls into that category. He's somebody that people are definitely really uncomfortable with a lot of the things that he's saying, and we just are talking about that. He's talking about these people who are going to be like the priests. They're clearly not Levites, right? They're just regular people, the poor who are left in Jerusalem, the good, honest citizens of Jerusalem that stood behind a plow their whole life. Not apparently just the Levites are going to be consecrated to the Lord. And Isaiah hits very hard how that has happened. And he goes on in verses 4 through 6. He says, "When the Lord shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the spirit of judgment and by the spirit of burning, and the Lord will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion and upon her assemblies a cloud and smoke by day and the shining of a flaming fire by night. For upon all the glory of Zion shall be a defense. And there shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, and for a place of refuge, and a covert from storm and from rain." Now here in verse 4, he's really explaining how this all has come to pass. All these people that have been doing the wrong thing have been wiped out. God has sort of cleaned everything up. It says, "When the Lord shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion." That word filth there is not the nicest word in the world in Hebrew. It's nicer than a similar word that's sometimes used, but it definitely is not just filth. It's more like excrement. Okay, so Isaiah is not treading lightly here. "When the Lord shall have washed away the excrement of the daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof, by the spirit of judgment and the spirit of burning." That's kind of a strange thing for him to say, but spirit there can also be wind. So it can be spirit, but it could also be the complete opposite end of the spectrum, which is like wind or even anger, like furious wind, something like a tornado, right? So he may be kind of painting this picture of a sort of tornado that swept through Jerusalem. So the tornado of judgment, or really justice. There's sort of an idea of a judicial decree that's come down, right? So a courtroom decree of sorts. The spirit, the whirlwind of justice, and the whirlwind of burning. But then he takes this burning image and he sort of turns it on its head in verse 5. So yes, out of the smoldering ruins of Jerusalem will come, it says in verse 5, "And the Lord will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion and upon her assemblies a cloud and smoke by day and the shining of a flaming fire by night. For upon all the glory of Zion shall be a defense." So he's wiped out all the people that have been doing things wrong. Purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof. Very strong language. The blood motif, once again, running through a lot of this early part of Isaiah. These people have blood on their hands, right? And in verse 5, he says, yes, this sort of flaming tornado is going to go through Jerusalem, metaphorically speaking, but that the smoldering ashes of Jerusalem, I'm going to turn into a flaming fire. But it's not going to be a bad flaming fire. It's going to be a flaming fire like the tabernacle. Once again, we're going back to tabernacle imagery here. But what he's saying is very heretical for his time. He's saying that everybody's house, every dwelling place of Mount Zion and upon her assembly. So dwelling place implies everybody's regular houses, even like little huts. But then upon her assemblies implies even public buildings. So everywhere, from the lowest hut to the most significant government building, is going to have a cloud and smoke by day and the shining of a flaming fire by night. Just to say exactly what happened with the tabernacle. There was the smoke by day and the fire by night that always stayed with the tabernacle. That's how you knew that God was there when they were in the wilderness. But he says everywhere in Mount Zion, all of Jerusalem is going to be like the tabernacle. For upon all the glory of Zion shall be a defense. And that's kind of a strange, defense is sort of a strange thing to say there. The picture, though, that's painted by that is this idea of a tabernacle. So it's almost like all of Jerusalem was one big tabernacle. And he goes on to explain that in the next verse. And there shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, and for a place of refuge, and a covert from storm and from rain. So he's picturing all of Jerusalem, actually, as sort of one big tabernacle, and the cloud and smoke is over the whole city, and it's a protection for the people, so that they aren't going to be hurt by the Assyrians anymore, but also by all the social justice issues that we've been dealing with the whole time. Nobody can hurt these people anymore. And I really like that image, and I think it's something that we should think about. How close are we to creating this in our communities? Are our homes like the tabernacle? Do we feel like they're a place that God could be? I think that's just something for us to think about. And I think that Isaiah is definitely saying to these people, right now it's not. You guys are not taking care of the poor. You're not sacrificing properly. You're not doing the things you're supposed to be doing. God couldn't live here. But someday, when the wicked have been wiped out, those that are left, it is going to be like this for them. All Jerusalem is going to be consecrated to the Lord. This is very reminiscent of things that we'll see later in Isaiah, but also things that show up very, very much later in the book of Zechariah. Everything is going to be consecrated to the Lord. And can we apply this in our own lives? Can we look at our neighborhoods, look at our homes and say, is this place consecrated to the Lord? Is it like the tabernacle? And Isaiah is saying, if it's not, you need to figure out how to make it that way. So anyway, that's this very short chapter, and we'll see you guys next time.